Hello everyone! Welcome to Creative Edge Tutorials, where I show the start to finish process of one of my 3 designs. In this month's article, I chose to make 3 examples of flower head pieces, and today I would like to show you how I created the Sassy Modern flower pillbox hat. So the first thing, to create the mechanics of the hat portion, you'll need the 1-inch flat wire, the U-glue dashes, the yarn, the white chenille, the yarn spun white very thin, and then the white tulle netting, about a yard of it, like this. Now let's get started with the construction. So we're going to start out with a flat wire. I've cut 2 pieces of flat wire exactly the same length because we're going to create a band for the pillbox hat that's wide enough so that it gives us enough surface for gluing flowers. So I'm going to start out by bending this over, and while I'm also doing that, I'm going to actually take U-glue dashes, a couple of them, and have them placed like that, so that when we bend this over and there's an overlap, that it sticks together. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. So it's something like this. So this will be about the right size for flowering this afterwards, and that it sits perfect like a pillbox hat. So I have another one, which I'm going to do the same thing too. So again, I'm going to overlap it. And so I'm going to take a couple of U-glues and have that secured. But actually before we do this, we might want to do this so that it fits over the other. Meanwhile, actually, before we actually put that together, what we want to do is attach some of these, wait a minute here, some of these U-glue dash, so that because we're actually going to make that band a little bit wider. So we're going to just take some of these U-glue and place it maybe 2-3 inches apart. So that it seals nice and tight when we start to put the 2 bands together. So we want to start to actually overlap it so that it's 1.5 wide. What this does is just one width alone is too soft. By overlapping half, like half wide, an overlap, the whole thing is a little bit stronger and holds together better without bending too much and going out of shape. So now that we have this, we're going to take more U-glue dash, and you're going to put them again in sort of random spots. Again, maybe 2-3 inches apart. I guess 3 inches apart on center, it looks like about. So what we're going to what we have is the chenille. This is a chenille yarn, and it's really like the chenille wire, that it's really fluffy, has a lot of fuzziness to it, and it's really about the best kind of gluing surface that you could possibly have. And so what we're going to do is wrap this whole thing in it. So we're going to start out by one of these pieces. Just start out by attaching it to a U-glue. And the reason why I have it off the big spool into a little ball is so that it's a lot easier for you to do this wrapping, because you have to go in and out and you can't do that with a big ball of yarn. So this is going to take just a little bit of time here because of the fact that you have to do this wrap that can't go any really faster. This is about as fast as you can get. So I just completed this. That took a little less than 10 minutes. And I realized that when I made the first original one, I actually had a chenille yarn that was probably 3 times thicker than this. So it was a lot faster. So just remember that if you buy the chenille yarn, if you buy the thicker one, this process would go a lot faster. But it has a very nice finish. It's very soft, so it feels nice on the head. But at the same time, it absorbs the glue that we'll be using to apply the flowers onto the band. So that's really the best perk about this particular mechanic. It works really well for adhering with the Oasis floral adhesive. So the next piece that we want to make is the top on this Pillbox hat. And so I actually have the flat wire, the 2-inch flat wire, made so that it fits just not snug, but just fits on the inside of this. And the reason why you don't want it too snug is because we're going to beef it up a little bit with yarn. So it needs to fit nicely inside, but it doesn't have to be too snug. So with this, what we're going to do is I'm going to take the U-glue dashes again and cut it into halves. And I'm going to have some of these halves attached to the side of this as well. And like here, maybe every, again, 3 inches or so. The reason why we're doing this is that so that it actually catches the yarn again so it doesn't slide. And so I'm going to go like so. And then I'm going to actually peel those off. All of those, the covers. And we're going to start with the thinner yarn. That's this one here. Really better for this not to be really thick at all, because you want the delicateness of what this actually looks like. So basically what we're doing is just crossing and touching the U-glue dash. It's just random, but it just hit all the glue dots first so that it's nice and stable. And then after you get to a certain point, then you can start to crisscross more randomly. But this is basically what you're going to create is a gridding like this. And this actually becomes the top of the hat. So that when you look at the hat nice and close, it looks very attractive. Okay, so I finished wrapping that wire, the band, so that it creates a nice grid like this that is going to be on the top. And this ring was just a little bit smaller and it didn't fit tight into this other band. So I just sort of beefed it up with the chenille yarn wrap around until it fits fairly snug like this. This is what we're looking for, so that it lifts up like this. And then what we're going to do is go in here and just glue it with Oasis glue in a few spots and just push it down a little bit so that the glue kind of disappears. But it has that little bit of a lift to it so that, there we go. And so we'll just let it sit so that the glue is nice and tight. So next I'm gonna have the head, the styrofoam head, so that I can now work on in relation to how it's gonna be worn. So I'm going to just turn this around so I can see. And I'm going to put this Pillbox hat on the top, and I'm going to have it sort of coming down, sort of down the forehead just a little bit. In order to get this to stay down, actually, first I want to put a piece of plastic because we'll be gluing flowers on it. So we don't want it all gooped up on the head, the styrofoam head. So I'm going to then pin that in. And then I'm gonna get ready to put the tulle over it for veiling. It's just a short veil. But what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna show you in a minute, what I'm gonna do first is to take U-glue dashes and place it, just dot it along the front on that metal. I'll just go about halfway to the side. Do that on the other side as well. It's really important that it attaches to the metal because it sticks really good on the metal. And what's on the chenille could come unloose, so you want it on chenille, but really you want to make sure that the U-glue makes contact with the metal. You could also, if you wanted to use glue gun, but I just think that this is a quicker method. So I'm going to take the middle of this right here and start with that in the middle to the front. So you're going to stick that right there. And then what I want to do is actually end with the last U-glue dash back there on that side. So what we have to do is just sort of stick this gathered up over the U-glue so that it helps fill the left half. So you can see that that's been gathered and attached to the U-glue. And then likewise, on this side, this end here should attach to the last piece of U-glue over on this side. And then just gathered in between. If you might need a occasional odd U-glue in there because the spacing was a little bit too far, you can add on. I may do that because there's a little gap. Just makes it so much easier when you got good points of attachment. You could also at the same time, I can see, you can also at the same time add to the, pin it into the chenille as well. So basically you've attached it to the front facing up so that whatever flowers that surrounds here, this veil would just drape right over it. And especially because the flowers will be a little bit higher up onto this so that it will drop over it. So that's kind of the effect that you want. And you just want it on the front half. You don't have to worry about doing it all the way around unless you want to. So that's up to you so that it's kind of like that. Okay, so then we're gonna start flowering. And the first area that you want to actually flower is to just make sure that this tool stays in place. So I'm going to just glue a few flower. And in this case, what I'm going to do is actually work with some eryngium. So I'm going to take the eryngium and place them right there at the top. I'll show you this in a minute. Just needs to happen every couple of inches or so. So I'm going to start working on some of the bigger flowers that's going to go in here. I'm going to use some carnation and minigerb. And they are heavy, so they're going to need to stick right away. And because we're designing onto a surface that's upright, we want to pour a little bit of that Oasis glue onto this piece of cardboard so that it starts to set a little bit, so that it's a little stickier. I'm going to actually try to position this kind of in a spot like this to get started. And then I'm going to design in behind it. And then I'm going to work with some of the other flowers. Not all of these are for this particular design, but I just got some prepared in advance that's been cauterized, so I'm trying to use that. So with this one, I'm going to go ahead and take this. It's starting to get a little sticky. I'm going to take this and take a good swath of that glue and put it right there on that chenille and press it. I'm a little tempted to just pin this in a little bit so that it has something that it can kind of attach to if I can. Yeah, I think that works so that it kind of stays in place. It kind of holds it for us. And then I'm going to take, let's see, maybe a mini gerb and maybe put it in behind and above. It's a little bit shallower, so it actually fits in there quite nicely. And this one here, I will pin it in and I'll push it through so that it stays in place. Something like that. I'm going to work with, because I actually ran out of the white flowers that I used in the feature article. So I went outside and cut some Shasta daisies. It's nice and light, and it's also very flat, so it's much easier to manipulate that onto that chenille. That should stick very nicely. Maybe another one, a smaller one, that I can then lather up on the back and use it up a little higher. I think I'm going to basically complete actually the front side so that you can see how it looks, and then you can sort of imagine what it would look like all the way around. I'm going to put this to the back there so that it's sort of surrounded by the white daisy. And then I'm going to actually use a little bit more of the eryngium because we used it to edge the top. I'm going to use more of it to start to come into the front to create a little bit of a pattern with it. Maybe use a little bit of hydrangea so that you can kind of create a nice pattern. I'm going to also use a little bit of astrantia to pick up the red violet. So we'll go with that a little bit over on this side. These are nice and light. They've also been treated, cauterized before, so they're all set to go. A little bit more hydrangea. But you can see how this is working. You're just going to build up, and it's really all about adding flowers to decorate the hat. It's really not trying to make it a gardeny look, because that's not what this is about. This is more about decorating the hat, the surface of the band. So it's sort of, you just sort of design as you go along and get the color distributed in such a way so that as you turn it, you can see the colors just sort of picking up. And then I have actually these really pretty matricaria. These are cute little daisies. That looks kind of nice floating, even out a little bit more forward. Maybe we're gonna tuck in a couple of those, just glued in even into that carnation a little bit. So you can imagine how you might finish all the way around. because I want to now show you what to do with the veiling. So that the veil now will go over those flowers. They come from the Pillbox top, and it sort of spills over these flowers. So with this, you could actually have some flowers on the veil itself. So I'm going to squeeze out some glue onto this cardboard, and I'm going to take some of these matricaria and just dip so that they can actually be on the veil on the outside. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. There are many potential looks to design these cool hats for, not only for the Sassy Modern bride, but it can be worn at a red carpet event or even to wear for an evening party. Or I was thinking it would be so much fun to do it in miniature for a little girl's birthday party. Dress up like Sassy Derby or tea party. I'm just thinking that it's just a lot of fun decorating these fun Pillbox hat to your liking. To read this month's full article, please visit hitomigilliam.com/creativeedge. You'll be able to see the finished headpiece and read accompanying article for more insight and for the list of flowers and supplies used to create each of the 3 pieces. Also, if you missed my Creative Edge Techniques tutorial on cauterizing flowers for gluing, make sure to watch it via the link below or the card above. Back again is a limited number of signed 8x10 prints from this month's article. This month's print features my garden nymph flower crown. Prints can be ordered up until August the 14th and will begin shipping the week of the 17th. And as always, please consider supporting my channel by liking this video and subscribing for future content.